when you put public art in places, it decreases graffiti and vandalism. So put something out there, people are less likely to deface something that's been installed than they are a blank wall. And graffiti is okay in its place when it's allowed, but some of it's awful too. So, yeah. I love also, I should say, the murals in Edmonton. They're really going crazy right now. There's so many murals popping up everywhere. I think it's great. So I think there were a few different venues, but I think they did some at the Paint Spot. I remember the Ice on White Festival was where, so it was super, super cold, but we all huddled in a tent, and I don't know, lots of people came out to paint. There must have been like 100 people that came out and painted. It's cool because so this one, right? Istanbul. That's so cool. Somebody's doing their homeland in Istanbul. And I'm sure there's like some white avenue somewhere. You like cats? Cat zone. And then there'd be lots of kids. These are probably kids. I'm sure I can find one of mine somewhere. So that was actually through Phil too, the owner of this gallery. And so at the time he was working for a company called Mural Mosaic with two other guys, two brothers, Louis and Paul Lavoie. And so they came up with this idea to go across Canada and create a mural in various cities. And the mural was based on a train, but each community kept their mural, but together you can see the whole train online, so sort of connecting coast to coast across Canada. So I got to travel to all these cool little communities that you would never go to, right? Like small towns who just wanted to bring their community together. And we painted with dogs and babies and all kinds of new immigrants, people that had lived there all their lives. It was so cool. It was a great experience, yeah. And so each person would paint a little tiny 4x4 picture. Our job was to like piece it together to make like a train car that had some significance to the community that we were working in. So the one on White Avenue, for instance, that's on the public bathrooms there, great place for it, shout out. It's the streetcar. So you know that little streetcar that goes across the high level? It's like an image of that, but it's made up of like 800 and something little tiny paintings. It's really, so when you go look at it close up, you see all the individual paintings. And they're just done by community members. They're not done, there are some artists obviously that participate, but you could be a baby and put your footprint in and that was fine, you know? Or a dog and whatever. It's there's all levels of artists in there. So it's a true community art project, yeah. It's been a while since I had a good look at this. This is probably one of mine. The train tracks. Like, when you look at it up close, you can't really see, but those ones with that diagonal line, they make the tracks. So we had to paint them in a very special way to make it work. I think it's kind of cool. Looks good. That's one with a shout out to the market special. That's a cool sort of Edmonton farmers market looking thing too. It was a big project. So we did this in, I think the goal was to do 150, one for each year. I don't think we quite made it to 150, but we were close in a year. It was exhausting, but great fun, really good fun. I think because that one in particular was sort of representing Old Strathcona, so they wanted the streetcar, and then there's like musicians and actors and things hanging out the windows. So it's sort of that whole festival vibe that happens in that area is represented. There's another one that K-Days did, that's the big Ferris wheel on a train car. I'm not quite sure where that one is. But there's like, yeah, each city sort of picked something that was, I think it was Revelstoke did a bear. Yeah, so that each city had their own design. The thing that was common was that it was all based on a train track, right? So there was the train track and then something riding on a train car on top of it. It was really a fun project. There's a line here that's pretty light. All these ones are pretty light. And because they're nice and light, they contrast against this dark area and they make it come out, right? If they were too similar to the dark area, it wouldn't pop so much. So around the main image, we try to put all the light colored tiles just to make the main image stand out. So that's kind of, but it's really just done by eye and trial and error, and you'll stand there for a while and then be like, oh, I put that one with the better here. And it's like kind of like doing a jigsaw, but you have there's no definite place to put things. You just kind of make it up until it works. So this one was probably done by one of the team. Same with this one, I'm guessing. Anything that has like a very distinct shape, and the head, for instance, those would have been done by one of the team. And then there's a taco. See the taco? It's so random what people do. It's a hard industry to put yourself in if you want to do it exclusively. It's so hit and miss. I live month to month. Some months I'm like, woohoo, this is a great month. And then other months I'm like, now what, you know? But, so that part is extremely difficult. But I choose to do it because I love it, and it gives me a lifestyle which is so flexible, and I get to travel to cool places as part of my art. So yeah, I may not make money, but somebody might pay for me to go to Italy, for instance, which is awesome. But yeah, challenge. I would say that's the biggest challenge, is the uncertainty of where your next paycheck is coming from. So unless you're like either really good or you have lots of like side jobs, and if you rely solely on art sales, good luck. So that was huge. That's a huge challenge, a constant challenge. And then I guess everyone talks about the pandemic, but that was a massive challenge for the arts in general. We rely on sharing our work, and having personal interactions with people is so important. So and it was like overnight, suddenly every single thing that I had booked just went, right? Like you couldn't do anything. And so I'm sat at home thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it was a very sort of existential crisis almost of, what is my life worth now? Because I can't create to show my work anymore. So that was a big challenge. And I think a lot of artists really struggled during that period, just to find meaning in their day-to-day, right? Becomes part of your DNA, I guess, creation and creating. So when that's taken away from you, it's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. We love Edmonton. I really feel like this here. They did such a good job. Because it's got like everything in it, right? So good. But then the challenge now has been that people have kind of got used to the online aspect of things, so they don't want to come and look at art anymore. They'll just browse it online and buy it from Amazon. It's not the same. It's not the same, and you know it's not the same. Yeah. Like it affects so many levels, right? It's not just affecting the person that you're buying from. It's affecting that organization that's housing them, and then they can spend money Like you buy from me, I spend money with my framer in town, I spend money with my local supply store, I spend money at the coffee shop where I go to sit and do my social media posts. I spend money traveling around to go places to do my art, you know? So there's this whole huge trickle-down effect that I don't know if that's really celebrated as much as it should be, you know? So that one was done on location in Jasper. And so I did my whole painting and everything was great. I had a lovely day. It was so amazing. And packing up and put everything in the car, and I see all these cars like 50 feet from where I was sat. I'd never heard them. And there's a grizzly bear right there. And I was like 50 feet from this grizzly bear the whole time. And nobody told me. Oh, okay, whatever. I'm still here, so. We need to get rid of Winners, art department, and Amazon. Stop buying your art on Amazon, everyone. Start buying with your local person. I think there's a perception that buying from a local artist is expensive, and that's not true. You know, come in here, there's a print. There's a print you could find in here for $25 if you wanted. You don't have to go to Marshall's or whatever and buy some generic thing that you don't know who did it. Like, and they won't do a little happy dance when they sell either. We will. I'll even show you. Usually opportunities are like posted on like the Edmonton Arts Council, for instance, will say there's a business wanting to have their wall painted, and so you just get yourself on those lists, and then you can see what opportunities are out there. I know some, I don't know if you've heard of Josh Harnack. He's kind of got himself, and that AJ Loudon, and they get asked now by businesses, so just because they've done so many. Yeah, but that's, I know a few years ago Edmonton had a grant, didn't it, for, I feel like they did, for murals to be created, just because they figured it would stop graffiti, which it kind of does, not completely, but when you've got a nice wall, it's so much nicer to look at that, right, than look at, I was going to say that one, but that one's painted too. Than one that's not painted. And there's less vandalism, and it spruces up the neighborhood, and there's just so many good things with art, you know? This one is great. Yeah, it's surprising when you really look. People sort of talk about Edmonton as not being a pretty city, but if you actually look around, there's lots of really lovely spots in Edmonton. So the show that I'm doing in the summer is going to be focusing on like hidden gems or unexpected places in Edmonton that I'm going to try to redefine in a painterly way so that people will think about them differently instead of just seeing something that maybe they've thought of as ugly. Now you'll see it through an artist's eye, which is sometimes quite different, right? I think, yeah, to a certain extent there's that, but I know some artists have had their work defaced, depending on what it is, and some even, like AJ Loudon, who's quite popular in town, when his get defaced, he says that it's like part of the process almost, right? Like, because it's in a public space, it's not that he welcomes it, that's not the right word, but he sees that it's kind of like how totem poles are meant to fall down eventually, right? And go back to the earth. Same with the mural in his thinking, I believe, that he thinks that, you know, if you put it out there, then you have to expect that something might happen to it. So, but I know the city had a program of cleaning up. I don't know exactly how it works, but, or if people buy into it, or if there's like a limit, I'm not sure. And then there's free walls, or at least there used to be. I don't know if there still is. And those are available for anyone to go and create art. As long as you're not putting up hate speech or whatever, you can go and just paint whatever you feel like. but know that tomorrow somebody might paint it over it, right? Because it's a free wall and nothing. This is different because obviously this has been commissioned. It's a private piece of art. You shouldn't go over and deface it, but on a free wall, it's a different story. Well, I started just by doing things like the White Ave Art Walk. So, I mean, it's fairly affordable. You don't need anything. You've got a guaranteed audience, and then you learn if people want to buy your art who aren't related to you or your best friend. Because your best friend is always going to tell you that your art is good, right? And so's your mum. But when you make that first sale to somebody you have no idea who they are, that's really special. So that's where I started doing it, was at things like the art walk, yeah. And then just progressed from there. It's a good way to test the market. So many boring grey walls in Edmonton, so let's chuck some art up. Just do it. Isn't that the slogan? Isn't that our slogan? Oh, take a risk, Edmonton. There you go. That's the one. Oh, is that right? It's perfect.